Hello everyone. أهلا وسهلا. مرحبا بكم. Hello everyone at EPA for EPA Days Dubai. We're really glad to have you for this event. It's the first event of the EPA Days series in the Middle East, and we are really glad to have it centered, let's say, virtually in Dubai, but for uh, um, uh, let's say for all the Middle East region. We API is a known brand in the region already. We have a lot of speakers, a lot of attendees from Dubai and Middle East in our event. But it was now it's the first time we organize an event around this region with speakers of this region. We're really glad to be there, and let me share you some numbers about API Days for over the last 10 years. So let's remind the goal of APIs is really to connect the humans behind APIs. We build interfaces for on the technical side and the business side, but the goal is really to connect the people who are building these interfaces together. So let's remind it. We used to do it physically for places which are new, and also because of COVID, we also now do it virtually. But every of our virtual event is at one point has a goal to be a physical event soon. So yeah, we'll hope we'll be able to do it next year. But now let's connect on the physical side, and let's continue to connect the human behind APIs. So API is a series of events. We have different events at different time of the year. Now we're on the Middle East in June, but again, we have other type of events in other part of the world, from USA to Europe to Asia Pacific. Yes, so if you want to join other events, be a speaker or attend to other events in the world, you can go on our website and to be able to register. Apidays is a conference who has been running for 10 years with more than 75 events, 50,000 past attendees, and for an online global community of 300,000 community members. You are part of this community. That's great, and we are glad to have you. But yeah, don't hesitate to connect with others. The hashtag of the event is Apidays Dubai, and the official Twitter account of Apidays is Apidays Global. So every time you will see us at Apidays Global, we will love to retweet you. But you can also put your own tweets from the slides you see or the ideas you share, you listen, if you want to share them with Apidays Dubai. So APIs is a series of events, but we don't just do conferences. We also do consulting. We help company hire API talent on the technical side and the business side. We do some research with some white papers or industry research or API landscapes. We do classes and training on APIs. We help companies settle their own classes. And we also produce content with newsletters, blogging, webinar videos, or social media. So APIs is not just events, it's everything around APIs. There are three initiatives I really want to share with you before we dive into the content of APIs Dubai. The first one is women in APIs. You know, in the tech world, we don't have enough female speakers, attendees, so we wanted to be sure that we are able to foster talent and diversity in the API community. So we built that Women in API program. It's really a program for, let's say, to coach women who to be speaker and to inspire other female to come at conferences and to be speaker too. So some numbers, but now this program has over 200 members in 40 different countries. We do quarterly meetups. We have mentoring sessions, coaching, and we have people who can follow a program of mentoring for speaking at events, so they can inspire other female to be there. We really want to thank Stoplight and Twilio for being support of this initiative. So if you are a female or if you know a female who must be in that program, don't hesitate to join the program or refer the program to her. The second initiative we're doing is what we call the Sustainable Digital Challenge. It's a 3-month program we do with companies who wants to be involved. So we onboard product teams and technical teams, so business teams, product teams, and technical teams into a 3-month program to completely rethink the application according to eco-design principles on the code, on the design, on the architecture, and sometimes even on the hardware. So it's a way to completely rethink how you build applications and cloud architecture according to eco design principles and reduce carbon footprint as a software builders. This program is free thanks to our sponsors, and you can join every year on January. So you can start to register now for the next edition. Last but not least, it's a media platform that we run called APIscene. It's a media platform where everybody can publish an article about APIs, and especially our speakers. Our speakers love to share a written version of their talks on this platform. So if you want to read some API news, or if you want to listen about what's next in the API space, you can go on apiscene.io to be able to discover what's the latest content on APIs. But now we are June 29th. We will having 2 days on APIs at Apidays Dubai and Middle East about open banking and digital transformation. And for that, we are glad to present you as our co-organizer, Prashant, who will tell you more about the program of the next 2 days. Hello, Prashant. How are you doing?
I'm good, Mehdi. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be on stage with you, not talking to the wonderful API community in Dubai and Middle East region. Hello, everybody. Glad that you could join us at this wonderful event. So for the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, we have put together a 40 plus sessions, 50 plus speakers, 3 panel discussions, couple of roundtables and workshops for you. It covers a broad range of topic. Let me give you a teaser about that. So post this address by us, you will have 2 wonderful keynotes addressing 2 key different aspects of the financial services ecosystem where API plays a key role. That is one on the future of finance, that is the open finance, and then the role of APIs in the insurance sector. And then post the keynotes, we will be have 3 different tracks open. One is the stage 1, where we'll focus predominantly from a functional or an enterprise point of view. There are 4 or more countries in this region who are at some or the other part of their journey towards open banking and open finance. So we have put together 3 sets of sessions, 3 segments of sessions there. First, we will focus on giving you an inside-out view of what is happening in the market. What are the expectations of the different set of stakeholders? What are the opportunities that they are seeing and the challenges that they foresee? And then moving on, we will bring together a couple of experts who have been there, done that in the open banking journey, but in different parts of the world. They will be sharing with us the success stories, the best practices, the pitfalls to avoid, so as to help the open banking stakeholders across this region to have a seamless journey there. And then moving on, we will have one couple of wonderful sessions on the topic of open finance, different aspects of it from different point of views. Then on the stage 2, we will focus more from a technology or a technology point of view. First, we will have sessions on the topic of how to prepare your organization for that open banking journey. What are those best practices in terms of architecture? What are the things that you need to take care of? Then we will have sessions on the developer experience and the customer experience in this new paradigm, because open banking or open finance is bringing in connecting the customers or the developers more and more seamlessly, and you need to focus on this topic in a much more focused manner. Then moving on, we will have the sessions on API security and API monetization to tell you about what are the things that you need to focus from a security point of view. Why is the need? Why such a need for API security has arisen in this time, and how to monetize the APIs that I have built. And parallelly, we will have some couple of wonderful workshops and roundtables, all being organized by our partners, Google Cloud, DataStax, Gravity.io, and Postman. So that brings that's all for the day 1. Moving on to day 2, we will have keynotes focusing on the digital transformation in the governance sector. Specifically, this region is very advanced in terms of the adoption of digital and the transformation of the manual process into a digital manner, especially in the governance sector, government and the governance areas. And then moving on, we will have sessions on the digital insurance. Then we will segue into two different tracks. One is on the from a business side, or the functional side, we will focus on the digital transformation across different industries. And in the second segment of the day 2, we will deep dive into aviation, specifically from a point of view of APIs, and then they roll the NDC, as they call it. And then we will have sessions on API ecosystem, what all need to be taken care of in that aspect. And then on the technical track, we will have sessions on the API first point of view, which will help the organizations to have set up a clear strategy, have a smooth journey in their API first world. And then there are definitely in this time and age, the data, which is of paramount importance. And there are specific strategies along with an API strategy, which focuses on the data point of view, so as to ensure your digital transformation is seamless. And we will have some wonderful sessions from the different sectors, different sets of industries on that. And then we will have the sessions from an API lifecycle point of view. And then to close, we will have the keynote focusing on the data privacy in the age of digital transformation, the best practices and the pitfalls to avoid. So these are this is a summary of the sessions that you can expect in the between today and tomorrow at these stages.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prashant. And so just to be sure we start on time, we just want to also thank our sponsors that make this event possible and free online for the online version. The first one is Google Cloud. They offer great API management solutions and a full environment for putting everything to the cloud. So they have an expo booth at the event, so you can browse the platform and visit them and ask them questions about what they're delivering. We also want to thank our silver and bronze sponsors, DataStax, Gravity.io, Apida, and Postman. Again, they also booth at the event, and you can ask them about the product. But now it's time to start, and we will start with Sanjeev Kumar, founder at website about future of finance is open. So finance is a topic that really interests the Middle East region. And yes, Sanjeev, you prepared something for us, right?
Absolutely, Mehdi. Yeah.
Perfect. The slides.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mehdi, for the session. And just to get started on the future of finance and why it is going to be open in so many ways. If you look at the industry, the financial services industry has existed for centuries, but why are we just starting to talk about openness, fairness, transparency, etc. in current times? Because suddenly the customer is seeking a lot more control, not just on how the banks and financial institutions use their money that they are keeping in the banks, but also how they use their data. So this sudden awareness and expectations from the customers regarding how financial institutions use their data has come into the mainstream, and the digital transformation of the industry that Prashant alluded to in his talk, which is one of the primary themes of the event, has created a lot of fintechs, a lot of non-banks, a lot of modern startups, as well as big tech companies to join the financial industry and create new kinds of financial products and services that can benefit the customers. So if you look at the transition that the banking industry is going through, openness, not just in terms of sharing the data, but also in terms of enabling new types of product creation and distribution, is going to be critical for how the industry progresses. So with that background, I just wanted to move on to the traction that open finance has been witnessing over the years. And if you look at the backdrop, a lot of countries started from a nudge from regulators towards their open banking and open finance journey. So a lot of things happened in the year 2016 when regulators in the UK came around and saw that the banking industry was very concentrated. There was no level playing field for the competitors to come in and disrupt and innovate in the industry. They started thinking about bringing ways to enable the level playing field in the industry. Then a couple of banks joined it in the initiatives as they were facilitated by the regulators to enable openness in the industry. A couple of years later, fintechs like Revolut and Klarna, they started to join the open banking phenomenon in a big way, not just as data consumer, but also enabling the data infrastructure, which will aggregate APIs which are published by banks, and then start facilitating that data transfer between banks and third-party providers. I think in the last 2 years, we have seen significant interest from bigger banks and investors like JP Morgan Chase and A16Z, who have started to invest in a big way in the data aggregation platforms. And then last year, we saw some of the big acquisitions by Visa and MasterCard in this space. Current year, we have already seen some of the bigwigs joining the industry, with Apple acquiring Credit Kudos in the UK a couple of months back to start their buy now, pay later journey, which they have just launched last month. And Stripe was the latest to come into the open banking space, where they have started creating and enabling the infrastructure for data sharing between banks and fintechs in the US. So the evolution of open finance over the years, if you see this chart, it's massive, not just in terms of the banking industry participating in it, but also outsiders coming in and enabling the journey towards the open finance journey. We looked at what was happening in this year typically, and if you look at open banking and open finance is no more a developed market play. Almost every country and every region is having some ways to participate in the phenomenon. Obviously, given the regulatory incentives and mandates that UK and Europe have started to do a couple of years back, they are a few years ahead in terms of their open banking journey. But if you look at emerging markets like Southeast Asia, Latin America, Middle East, all of them have started their open banking journey in a big way this year. And what I mean by that, a lot of companies in the segment has raised massive rounds of funding. A lot of companies have partnered with banks and fintechs and e-commerce platforms to enable open banking based products. And a lot of companies have also procured specific licenses to operate as a trusted player in different parts of the world. So a lot of traction has already happened in the year that has gone by, and we have only looked at this from January to May. And if you look at, we are at the fag end of June, a lot of things has happened in the segment already in the month of June. And some of the differences in what kind of activities we are seeing in the open finance sector, if you look at a lot of firms are involved in acquisitions, mergers, a lot of people are launching new kinds of products in partnerships with banks, in partnerships with networks, in partnerships with technology players. Regulators are also putting a lot of force and momentum behind open banking and open finance, where either they're busy evaluating the license applications and issuing licenses to open banking players, allowing some of them to participate in regulatory sandboxes, or setting up the standardization and API guidelines for banks to adhere to. So different kinds of activities. Of course, the funding space is important to point out, because if you look at 2022, there's a lot of news of slowdown of funding in the industry. But at the same time, if you look at the funding that has gone in, a lot of funding has gone to the technology infrastructure players in general. And if you look at the segment of technology players who are involved in open finance, a significant portion of that funding has gone to these kind of players. And then open banking is all about collaboration between different sets of players in the industry. So we are seeing a lot of partnerships, not just between banks and fintechs, but also between fintechs and fintechs, where they are partnering to enable embedded open banking. They are partnering to enable crypto kind of products where funding can be directly sourced from the bank account on a crypto exchange. And those kind of technology partnerships are also very prevalent in the industry. If you look at the progression journey of open finance in different countries and regions, we see slightly different ways in which they have approached the progression. But at the same time, if you look at, almost everyone is kind of evolving from one set of data sharing to a wider set of data sharing. So some of the countries have started with payments data, some of the countries have started with products and financial services, branch data, ATM data, which are easy to share. And then they have progressed towards consumer data that the banks are holding in their treasure. And then they are maturing towards something that we call open finance, where the data sharing is not just limited to bank accounts and debit cards, but also extends to other kind of financial products like investments, insurance, foreign exchange, a loan account, etc. So we are seeing a lot of variation in the way different countries are approaching the progression, but there seems to be a convergence in the end goal that everyone is looking to proceed towards. And there's a lot of discussion that keeps happening, especially from the bank side, that will open banking eventually hurt banks in the process, as they have to open up the data on which third parties are going to create and distribute products. And there's a very interesting quote that was given by the executive from Google a couple of years back, which is very important to keep in mind, that open banking is not a zero-sum game, right? It's going to expand the industry. We are talking about millions of people who are currently underserved and unserved by the traditional financial institutions. And one of the core agenda of open banking is to create products that can reach out to those underserved segments. So because it's not a zero-sum game, everyone who is going to participate in the ecosystem stands to benefit in a big way. And that's how banks have started to look at their open banking initiative, not just from the compliance angle, but also from a monetization and market expansion agenda. If you look at the financial services industry's evolution that is happening, a lot of it is going to run on open rails moving forward. So if you look at currently, a lot of financial products run on traditional rails. So if you have bank account, you need a banking license, you need to have a branch, you need to do physical KYC. Similarly, if you have other kinds of products, you need to have a traditional set of licenses or infrastructure capabilities to offer that kind of financial products. In the future, there's a lot of open rails that are coming up, which will enable new kind of players to offer financial products. So if you look at just the credit and finance, which is one of the biggest pillars on which the financial industry works, a lot of alternate data are going to come into the mix, which will allow you to create new kind of personalized products that can help banks as well as fintech serve underserved segments that are currently not served by the traditional financial institution. But at the same time, it will also reduce the cost to serve these segments of customers. Because that's very important. When you're expanding the market, you want to ensure that you can cost effectively and profitably serve a segment so that your business is sustainable, and at the same time customers enjoy the new kinds of product innovation that you bring to the market. So these are the kind of open rails that we have started to see come up in the industry. And if you look at the open banking related rails, so a lot of these rails which are highlighted on the slide have a direct correlation with open banking and open finance play, where either the data that is going to come in will be enabled by the data infrastructure platform, or a certain portion of the process flow, for example, digital KYC, will get benefited from the kind of data sharing that will happen from the open banking API. So that's how we see the future of finance evolve as open banking and open finance progresses. Also, open finance is not something which we see it having an isolated impact on the industry. There are several themes that are coming up in the financial industry. For example, embedded finance, digital finance, A lot of focus is there on sustainable finance, and Mehdi mentioned about the Apidays initiative around sustainable projects. So a lot of green finance project is also going to get benefited from open banking data. And the kind of super app initiatives that Revolut and Do are going after, that kind of massive product aggregation will definitely need a lot of data sharing between different participants to bring it to life. So that's how we see open finance having a direct impact on different trends that are shaping the future of finance, and that's why it has a larger impact in how the future of the industry evolves. Credit, as I mentioned, is one of the important segment in the industry, not just from the banks and financial institution side, but also from the consumer and SMEs angle, where a lot of credit decisioning is currently obstructed by the data that traditional institutions use for making those credit decisioning. If you look at this chart, where open banking comes into play, it allows real-time access to data to anyone who wants to make credit decisions, and as opposed to the data that comes from credit bureaus, or as opposed to the data that comes from financial statements, where there's a significant lag in the way that data is collected from the respective entities. That's why the data that will come from open banking will unlock significant value for the financial institutions by offering new ways to create and distribute credit products. This is one chart that we probably look at in terms of evolution of open banking, how it is taking shape. So obviously we have closed banking for last so many centuries, where banks are mostly focused on competition with other banks. Now we are talking about open banking, where data sharing is going to happen through standard APIs for payments data, for accounts data, etc. The next leg of evolution is open finance, which kind of allows banks to operate, banks and financial institutions from different segments to share data and create new kinds of products and processes. And then eventually we are talking about open economy, which allows the data sharing to extend across different industries like e-commerce, healthcare, utility, energy, telecom, etc. So this is the way we are witnessing the evolution of open banking in terms of data scope and also the collaboration scope. So the kind of collaboration that is required to bring this to life is going to be immense, and APIs are the bedrock of that collaboration, because you can't have exclusive one-on-one partnership relationship to enable this kind of open future. And that's why the APIs are going to be the bedrock of this evolution that we are going to see in the industry. A couple of examples of what we are already seeing in the market as a aftermath of open banking. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, there's a lot of discussion on fintech marketplaces that has already started to happen. And one case study is from Starling Bank. So they have created a marketplace where they partner with a bunch of players to serve their retail customers as well as their small, medium business customers. There's a lot of progress that has happened on the credit decisioning and credit disbursement kind of module. And this is one of the initiatives in India, which is called Open Credit Enablement Network. And if you look at the value chain in which the credit is currently originated, underwritten, and disbursed to SMEs, and after the disbursement, there's a lot of activities that happens on the monitoring and collection side. Almost all these individual aspects of the value chain can get benefited by open finance in several ways, by accessing data, but also by enabling account-to-account payments and collection of payments in smaller amounts if there is a problem at the side of the customer. We are seeing a lot of rebundling and embedded finance kind of proposition where lifestyle players like Grab, Gcash, Alipay, they are embedding financial services in their core proposition. At the same time, we are seeing a lot of financial players like Revolut, Square, Paytm. They are bringing a lot of lifestyle services around their core financial services. So that's the kind of evolution we have started to see in the industry. But if you look at the the behind the scenes, why this kind of rebundling is happening, then you will see that there's a lot of openness that has come in the infrastructure layer, but also on the innovation and distribution layer that has enabled this kind of business model to flourish. So everyone is talking about embedded finance, where non-banks are bringing financial proposition embedded in their customer journey. And that is being enabled by banking as a service platforms, where banks and technology players are enabling renting out their charter as well as their technology capabilities to non-banks to allow them to embed financial services in their platform. But if you look at the behind the scenes, what's happening, there's a open infrastructure that has emerged, which basically allows both banks as well as fintechs and non-banks to use the technology that they need to create and distribute a product. So nobody's talking to one or two core banking players to launch financial products. Now you have availability and accessibility to infrastructure players where all of this is available in the form of as a service. So you don't have to pay them millions of dollars and install their product on your servers before you can get started. So this openness of infrastructure is actually driving the customer facing trend that we are witnessing in the form of open finance, embedded finance, and banking as a service. And if you look at the middle layer, which kind of connects these two, is the innovation infrastructure, either in the form of accelerators and incubators, which are operated by banks, or core banking players creating their own infrastructure libraries in the form of core banking adjacent technology providers. Or there are individual digital sandboxes which have come up, which are enabling banks, fintechs, and non-banks to get access to the fintech infrastructure provider in one go. So we are seeing different kind of evolution happening on all these three levels, on the product manufacturing side, on the product distribution side, but also on the technology infrastructure side, which are coming together and shaping the future of finance. And if you look at a lot of this evolution is happening because individual systems, individual companies can talk to each other through APIs, which are not specific APIs. They are standardized APIs, which enable integration between number of players and allow people to innovate in real time. So that's how we see the industry moving forward. And that's where I wanted to end my session. Over to you, Miguel, for next part of the session.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sanjeev. So, a first question I may have. Thank you for the presentation. In the finance sector, we say that because of banking as a service APIs, at the end it will just be brands. Like Uber can be a financial brand, Grab can be a financial brand. As long as you own a community that really trusts your brand, you can be the next fintech. Do you agree with that statement?
Oh, absolutely. So if you look at it from a customer's angle, if I already do a lot of interaction with the brands for my lifestyle needs, whether I'm making an e-commerce purchase or I'm riding a car or I'm making a transaction for buying a movie or something else, and if I like the experience that the brand provides me in terms of digital interaction, rewards, cashbacks, etc. Financial products at the end of the day are just a means to an end, right? You don't wake up and say, I want to take a loan today, or I want to open a bank account today. At the end of the day, you want to do something with that money that you are saving or investing, or you want to do something with that money that you are borrowing from a bank or a fintech. So I think that kind of finance getting embedded in the customer journey of brands who have an end relation with the customer is going to become a norm as we proceed forward.
To your mind, what is the different mindset between talking about open banking or embedded banking, or open finance, embedded finance? What's the shift like, and what do we need to understand in the difference between the two?
Well, absolutely. Great question. I think there's a lot of confusion because there are overlaps in these two terms, but there are also significant differences. So when we say embedded finance, we are talking about the trend that you just alluded to, where a brand which is not a bank is embedding financial services for seamless access to their end customers. So that's why we are calling it finance getting embedded into something which is not finance. Open finance is primarily around sharing of data across different entities, right? And what I mean by that, currently a lot of financial data, which includes transaction data, KYC data, product data, is lying with the current financial institutions. So when you allow customers to share that data with anyone who can offer them a new kind of financial products, that is what we term as open finance, because there's an openness in which the customers can share their data. The second aspect of open finance is also open payments, or most people call it payment initiation, where you allow customers the ability to move money from their account to any other account, whether it is their own account or some merchant account or some business account. And if they can do that movement of money without using an intermediary like a debit card or a credit card, then that also falls in the purview of open finance. So open finance is mainly about movement of money and movement of data by taking consent from the customer.
We have a question that, do you consider open finance contain open healthcare?
So we call it open economy, and some people call it open data. Some people call it open data economy, where other industries are also coming into the mix. So if you look at how Australia is going about their open finance journey, they are not calling it open banking or open finance. They are calling it consumer data rights. So they are calling it data. Doesn't matter if that data is residing with the banks or a health company or a telecom company or an energy company. So they are saying that consumers should have the control over their data, irrespective of which entity or which industry is holding that data. So I can move my data from my energy company and switch to another energy company if they allow me better rates and better features. So open health is more a part of open data rather than open finance.
We have a question from different banking players who say, how can I avoid to be disintermediated and to disappear if I open into embedded banking? If I'm in a Grab or Uber or Amazon or Alibaba user experience, like, okay, I provide them banking as a service solution, but okay, but I'm disappearing. People don't see my brand, don't see anything anymore. So how I can survive in the embedded finance?
A great question, and that's what I alluded to when I mentioned about open banking not being a zero-sum game. So banks need to think of it as a wider opportunity, right? So even, you look at the banking industry, banks have existed for centuries. Despite that, we have, 40, 50% of customers being unserved in parts of the world like Southeast Asia, Middle East, India, Latin America. So if you look at the opportunity that can come into the financial services industry through open banking is going to be huge. Obviously, there will be some cannibalization as you partner with bigger players, but that will also allow banks to reinvent their customer experience, right? Because it's not just data exchange. It's also an exchange of values, exchange of cultures when you partner with a brand who is a digital native brand, and banks would learn a lot of things that will help them re-architect their customer experience that they offer to banks through their own channels today. And that will help them run two parts of their business. One which will be driven through partners, but another which will be an own channel through which they can reach out to customers and improve their experience.
Maybe last question there. Someone is asking, do you think banks should keep traditional channels like maybe web and mobile, their own web and their own mobile applications? Or do you think they should directly accept that they will lose the customer experience because everybody wants banking in their own environment? They don't want banking in a banking app, right? And and go out of my whatever lifestyle application to go in a banking app. Do you advise banks to still fight for the customer experience and the brand, or no, they should be embedded everywhere, and that's the end goal of banking? You remember the Bill Gates quote: "They will, we need we need banking, but we don't need banks," right?
So I have a rather different way of looking at it. So if you look at, there is no one size fit all from the customer's angle, right? So I am very different. You are very different. My dad is very different. The next generation is going to be very different. So and we are billions of people, right? So I don't see that it will be like a winner take all market. And financial services industry is not like other industries like e-commerce or entertainment, where the regulations are rather easy to deal with. So I see a lot of opportunity for banks to actually embed lifestyle services into their platform, right? So who is stopping banks to bring e-commerce and entertainment into the mix? And some of the forward-looking banks are doing that already in Europe, in Singapore. So I think eventually you should look at it as the opportunity is huge from a customer's angle, and you are going to fight with the brands who have a leg up in their operating model, but you also have a lot of experience of dealing with money. And believe me, when something goes wrong and customers can't reach out to the brand's call center to get quick resolution, they miss banks because they don't have any recourse to raise it to a regulator and escalate the issue that they are facing. So I don't think banks will disappear. Obviously, there will be a lot of rejig in the way the industry functions today. But I see definite space for banks, but obviously in a different shape and form.
So it seems every brand tried to have financial services embedded, and maybe banks wants to have lifestyle services embedded. So it's all about customers, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect, Sanjeev. Thank you very much for opening Apidays Dubai in Middle East. It was great to have you. Thank you for being there with us. And as the next keynote speaker, we will have Frederick Bisberg, who about the role of APIs in insurance transformation. So hello, Frederick. How are you?
Hello, how are you? I'm good, thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. So you can share your slides. And yes, let's talk about change, technology, and innovation. Thank you, Frederick.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I want to talk about how the insurance industry, by using our ecosystems or APIs to actually get things done. Now, I heard Sanjeev, he was just saying something really interesting when we were talking about embedded banking. And just to give you an idea of we're looking at in an insurance industry, I might add that I'm heading the digital transformation office of Daman Insurance Health Insurance, which is the largest health insurer in the Middle East. And our role is to put digital at the heart of the UAE healthcare ecosystem. And if you just look at this slide, you will see the level of connectivity that we are required to have. We are required to connect 4,000 plus hospitals, doctors, providers with more than 2.5 million members, making sure that we have all the right connectivity to our ecosystems, to the government, and so forth. So our world is basically one big API or connectivity issue. Now, what I wanted to discuss today is a few things on why it is so important to enable this connectivity and how you can go about doing it. Because one thing is talking about it and saying, yes, we need to be able to connect and to embed, as Sanjeev was talking about. Now, this was lifestyle into banking apps. And I want to tell you why it is so important, but I also want to discuss why it is so difficult for organizations to do so and how you can work around it in order to get it done. Now, when we're looking at the insurance world, we are also looking into the world of embedded insurance. Our problem, I guess you can say, is that people they don't really want to buy insurance. Insurance is a product that people, they in most cases are forced to buy. They have to pay a lot of money upfront for it, and in most cases they actually hope that they will never have to use this product. Because typically, if you have to use an insurance product, that means that you've had an incident, which is not necessarily a very positive experience. So it's a difficult product to sell and work with. Of course, it is important, and especially when you look at it from a healthcare insurance perspective, it is a bit more positive because it opens up for a world of healthcare. However, when we are looking at how insurance in the future most likely will be sold, then we will be the embedded part. The insurers of the world will be the embedded part. So whenever you go somewhere to buy products on Amazon or Netflix or Google or wherever you go, you will most likely be offered, and you will today, as you can see, a little insurance to just cover that TV that you just bought or something else. And this is where we as insurers need to be able to connect to other parties to offer our products as embedded insurance products. That means for us that our world in the future, this is our new normal. We can't just set a point of saying this is the way we have to go in our strategy and then we just blindly follow this. Our world is fluctuating, and it's fluctuating on a monthly basis. So if we are to create an organization, an insurance organization that is capable of following the fluctuations in the environment, we have to rethink how we are working with our systems, with our organization, with our culture, so to speak. Because in today's world, this is how it looks from an IT or digital delivery perspective. We are still, our insurers, or I would even say most incumbent organizations, are still working with IT as long-term projects. It takes 6, 9, 12, 18 months for a project to be defined, scoped, described, developed, tested, and accepted for going live. The problem is that during that period, which is a long time, the whole world is moving on. So the problem is the day that IT is actually releasing the product, everything has moved on. So we celebrate the release of the product with a huge list of change requests simply because the world has changed while we were busy building the product. And in order to mitigate or work with that, we have to understand why is it that this happens. Because I can guarantee you, it is not IT or anybody who doesn't want us to succeed. It is a combination of a lot of factors that simply just makes it difficult for us to move as fast as we want. And if we understand that, we also have a way out of it. So please, even though the previous slide could look like I'm shooting at IT, I'm not. IT are probably the place in the organization who wants the company to succeed the most, but there are just so many factors making it more difficult. And I'd like to discuss that because there are at least 4 main areas that are the reason for us having a difficult time meeting the fluctuations in the environment. And I'll go through them one by one simply because they are so important. We have the concept of technical debt, the available resources, a culture of us versus them, and then organizational capabilities. From a technical debt perspective, I'm not sure if you're aware of that term, but technical debt is what happens when IT cut corners. And again, I'm certain that IT does not want to cut corners deliberately. It happens because we have to, if you remember the fluctuations in the environment, we have to get something to the market and we have to get it fast and we are already delayed. We go to IT and we say, okay, we have to do this together and we only have 9 months or 6 months and then it has to be live. IT, they come back and say, no, because we have to do impact analysis. We have to make sure that the systems are capable of working with it. We have to understand what consequences it will have in our databases and so forth. So it will take longer. The business don't have the time. They escalate it and say, what can we do? We need to launch this really, really fast. Maybe the C-level takes over and tells IT, launch it. And IT say, okay, we can do it, but we have to cut corners. We have to we have to not take this into consideration, or we have to make an ad hoc solution over here. This is what creates technical debt. Because next time we have to do a project, we have to take this corner cutting into perspective. So we have to make sure that, does this corner cutting have any effect in what we're going to do now? So the impact analysis is going to take more time. In many cases, we also have to work around that corner cutting we did before. So it all adds up, and it simply builds to the time it takes to deliver products. And it is a significant issue in most organizations, because this has happened for 10, 12 years, which means that year on year you are simply adding to your technical debt and you're not paying it off, which means it just becomes bigger and bigger. So your systems become slower and to work with, and simply takes longer time to get things done. And when you're looking at this, then at the same time, because, and again, I'm not shooting at anybody here, I'm just telling you how the world is. And because IT is now under pressure to deliver something which they can't deliver the perfect way, but in a haphazard way, I dare say. So IT, they are not really happy of taking the responsibility for this delivery. So they are putting it to the business to say that this is what you want, and these are the requirements, and we are only delivering these requirements. And that kills the relationship or the partnership between the business and IT, because IT, they are not happy that they have to move faster than the systems actually allow them. So they will take a step back and say, we will do it. We don't think this is the right way of doing it, but it's your problem, dear business. And that hardens the relationship between it. So you have this us versus them feeling in the organization. So that means that the way of requirements gathering becomes much more difficult, because everything has to be signed off many times. We have to have the user acceptance test. If something goes wrong, we will basically go back to the papers and say, hey, you signed it, it's your problem. And again, here, it doesn't make it easier to get delivered things fast. Now, if you look at what I said in the beginning, when you have a fluctuating environment, but a more linear IT delivery because of the things we are talking about, then you will also have a large pile of change requests laying with the IT department, because they have the changes that the IT wants, because the world has changed faster than the IT delivery has been capable of doing. And you have to prioritize the change requests to the systems. And then you start to be depending on key people, the people who actually did the ad hoc solution that caused the technical debt. Maybe they didn't, because they didn't have the time, document it properly. And you are now starting to be dependent on key people, meaning that even if you added 10 more people, 100 more people, you wouldn't be able to move much faster, simply because you are dependent on this bottleneck, this person. The last thing I wanted to talk about in the reasons why it's difficult to get things done fast, which we need to do in order to follow the environment, is the organization. If we start hiring people or hiring external help, in many cases we look into a long procurement process. We have to make sure that everything is compliant and we're working the right way, which again takes time in the way that we are working. We may look into, and this is typically in the financial services, I would assume, a certain kind of change resistance from the top management, because now we have these systems that are working. Why is it that we want to change and look more into dynamic development and more use of APIs? And then the whole talent gap that is there in the market today, which affects all of us. Now, I know I've painted quite a dim picture of the world. So the question is there no way out of it? And of course there is. I mean, it isn't all bad. I just wanted to give you an idea of all the issues that organizations and insurance companies are facing today. But of course there is a way out of it. And partly is of course, since we're talking about APIs, but how do we work with APIs in the organization? How do we get this speed back? And I find there are three main areas. There is the creating an environment on connectivity. It is looking into what I call the power of one. And at the end, when we do things, we have to do things in short-term projects. Now, the environment of connectivity, this is, as I showed you in the very beginning, where you enable partners to connect seamlessly to the systems. Daman is in the center of the healthcare ecosystem of the UAE. We have to be able to connect seamlessly to all our partners, be it hospitals, doctors, providers, be it the government, be it our corporate clients or 2.5 million members. We have to be able to connect seamlessly. When you're building this environment of connectivity, you will also be able to reduce the need for in-house capabilities simply because you can use plug and play solutions. Just to give you an example, our mobile app is built as a shell. It is basically one big API shell where we can plug and play, plug and paste in best of breed applications. So when we want a virtual care platform, for example, telemedicine, where we can call a doctor online, we can find the best of breed app plugin for teleconsultations, put that in. If you want to have a doctor's appointment booking system, we can find best of breed and plug that in. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but can take best of breed and build our app around this. Our intellectual property in this case will be the connectivity, the API layers, and the app itself, not necessarily the appointment booking system, but the way all the systems are working together. So of course, this is important, and when you do this, business also becomes much more responsible or engaged, because you can go and work with the business to say, if you want a teleconsultation product, go find or suggest some partners, and we will work with it together, and they will be able to help you get the right product installed in the company. And of course, how do we do this? We do it by enabling a technology architecture which is called multi-speed, 2-speed, 3-speed, whatever you want to call it. But the idea here is that you are isolating your core systems, your transactional core systems. You're isolating them with a connectivity layer, and then on top of this layer, you can build a layer of differentiation where you have your business processes, you have your business rules. This is actually where, if you're into digital transformation and you are changing or revamping your processes, you are digitalizing your processes. If you have this layer, the specialists within the business can actually work on these business processes and the business rules directly in what's called low-code or no-code systems, and change the processes, and thereby improve the way the companies are working. You're able to do this simply because you have defined this layer of connectivity, this API between your process systems and your transactional core, meaning that we don't have to look into changes to the transactional core. And this is where it takes a lot of time to do. On top of your layer of differentiation, that's where you have the systems of engagement. This is where you have your mobile apps, your websites, and your partner connectivity. Again, there is an API layer between your websites, your apps, and your partner connectivity, down to your business rules and your workflow management and process, and then down to the transactional core. By separating the systems like this, you are building an organization that will be capable of doing many things at the same time, simply because you won't be depending on people are working in the core system, and you cannot do anything in the other layers because you have to go to the core systems. Typically, as you can see here, the core systems and the APIs will for sure be done by IT. This is your intellectual property. The API layers and the core systems is hardcore for the business. But the products and the systems that you're using in the systems of engagement, the top layer and the middle layer, will not necessarily be anything that the business, apart from keeping it alive and running and connected correctly to the other layers, the IT will not necessarily have too much to work on here, because it is these low-code systems where you can train the business units to work with them themselves. That means that you're taking a lot of pressure away from IT. They can start focusing on reducing the technical debt, creating this layer of connectivity and keeping the API layers alive in the best possible way so that the business can work on the simpler layers and getting things done faster. This is working and it's doable. I've been working with this for, I would say, 15 years now. It is possible. And I would say one of the keys here is to understand that you don't necessarily have to change your core systems, but you have to isolate it so you can work outside the core, independent on these changes in the core system that do take a long time. Now, when we're looking at the concept of the power of one, and this is more my recommendation on how to get started. Don't think that you can transform your whole organization in one. Start with one team, one unit, and one project. Make sure that that project has full focus on change, and get started, get them full support. When you're working on the one project instead of many projects, the project also internally on the organization will be less challenging. The business unit owners and the people who've been in the culture for a long time and feel they own the business, they won't feel as threatened by this single change project. And it's easier to manage and keep the motivation for change simply because there's focus on one project, and when it succeeds, you will celebrate the success. And that pretty much ties into the next one I wanted to talk about, because keep the project short term. We try to keep everything that we're doing to a maximum of 3 months. Even if we have a longer, maybe a 1 or 2 year change project, we will break it down into 3 months deliverables, simply because it is much easier to deal with. It starts rewarding or giving back the benefits immediately. We can celebrate this, and then we can build on this celebration and these results to move on to the next project. And for me, this is the key. This is the key to change. You have to make sure that your data model, your technology architecture is fairly full of connectivity with the API layers as we discussed. But you also have to make sure when you start working on changing or adapting to the changing environments, keep it in short-term projects. Even long projects need to be cut down to projects that you can easily overview and within a quarter show to the board of directors or your C-level that, hey, we said we wanted to do that, we did it, it's working, now we're moving on. So these are the things that I see we need to do in order to adjust companies to deal with a very volatile future. I don't think we'll ever go back to a normal where things are stable. So you have to create a company that is capable of delivering things really fast. I also don't believe in changing your core systems, your basic digital IT systems, but I believe in isolating the cores with APIs so you can work on other projects in parallel and distribute the workload, not only to the ICP, but even to business specialists. I think I'm kind of out of time now. If there's any questions, or if I'm allowed to continue, I have a few more slides to talk about how you actually motivate people to work with you. But as I said, I think I'm out of time.
Yeah, we are 7 minutes, including the questions still.
Okay.
So you can continue with the few slides if you
Very
want.
good, very good. Yeah, because so when we're looking into this, the main aspects of success is people and culture. We can talk about transformation and digital transformation, IT APIs and APIs all day, but if people are not with you, then you're not going to go anywhere. And if you see the picture I've been painting of especially the insurance industry, is that it's an old industry, a very proud industry, and it's a financial services industry. So it is a slow moving industry, right? And now I like to say that most insurers are overweight because there are so many things that are stopping the insurers of moving fast. You have people who've been in the industry for decades, who have their habits, who've been very successful for many years, and therefore, and then they should believe that they're really good at their job, which they are, but it's also difficult for them to start changing their habits. They don't know what's coming, so they will resist the change. So whenever you come and say, let's do this new things, they will say, no, because this has been working for me for 15 years. I'm not changing it. And this is also something that you'll see in the way that the industry is thinking in silos and kingdoms. I'm head of this unit, and I've been doing good for many years, and I'll continue doing this. We are also a heavily regulated industry, so there will be a lot of red tape and maybe even old processes, because we haven't looked into changing our processes for many years because they've been working well. I don't think they will work well for a long time, so we have to start thinking. We have the legacy IT systems, as I spoke about, and then the talent base, it's aging, and our culture as well. It's a proud industry. People have been in the industry for 20, 30, 50 years, and that just means, I'm not saying that people don't have the talent or the skills, I'm just saying that their likelihood for wanting to change their habits is less. So all these things are things that we are fighting with. When you start approaching this, I have a few examples on how you can get that to work. First, you need to set the vision that people believe in. And the vision has to be your guiding star somewhere up here. You also have to appreciate, with everything I've been talking about today, that you won't go there in a straight line. You will go there in a very curved line, but you still have to keep your vision intact. So you know, even though you're deviating from the straight line, that you're still looking at your North Star. Change always, if you want to do it successfully, has to start with the perfect team. You have to find people who want to change, who are full of fire to do these changes and want to work with you to get it done. This makes things much easier, and it gives you a head start in the changes that you're working with. We already spoke about breaking down the project into smaller chunks, so it's easier to show that it's working, and you can celebrate your successes earlier. One thing that is a fact in most industries is that your motivation follows the money. So if you apply a strong performance management program saying, now your annual reward, your bonus, will be directly tied to your ability to implement these changes in the organization, then you will find, first of all, it works, and you will find it also helps breaking down barriers between business units, simply because now you have a team across business units who are being rewarded for getting something done, and they will work towards this. So it's a very strong motivational factor to tie an incentive program directly to the projects and the way that you're working. The last thing, because normally when I'm talking about this, people they're saying that's fine, but we have 500 other projects that are also important and running, and that's right, and you have to stop some of them. In order to do this successfully, you have to stop some projects. You have to do a project re-evaluation exercise where you say, okay, what projects are actually adding value at the shortest period of time, and then prioritize them. You will for sure also have to reskill people. It's taking longer to hire new people, and maybe also influence the culture in a bad way than it does to reskill the people that you have, the people who want to work with you. Give them the training that they need and the experience that they need, and then let them be part of driving the changes. I propose that you should add this to the board agenda. So every time there is a board meeting, they actually ask directly, what is the status of this project? It will give you such a stronger focus within the organization to get these things done. And then, of course, celebrate whenever you can. You cannot celebrate too much. So make sure something good happens. Celebrate, show the organization that everything is success. Now I'm done. Thank you so much. If there's any question, I'd be more than happy to take them.
Thank you very much, Frederick. We have one question about the impact on regulation on the insurance aspect. In the banking.
I'm not sure if you are talking, but if you are, then I cannot hear you.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you still hear me? Can you hear me? No.
But as I said, when you're working with this, the trick is to not make it too difficult. If you start making it a big project and very difficult, then you're more likely to fail. So start in the small and take it from there. Just baby steps, step by step, but make sure that you have the direction towards the transformation that you want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Frederick.
Most welcome.
Oh, okay, you were able to listen, but we reached the time perfectly. So thank you, Frederick. I think it was a really well explained keynote presentation. So now we will go for the break. We will go for a break for you to be able to take a coffee or to see the expo booth, and we will be back in 20 minutes. Right, we'll be back in 20 minutes to be able to talk about on different tracks about open banking on stage 1, about how to prepare your bank on stage 2, and workshop and roundtables on stage 3. See you in 20 minutes. Thank you very much.